Welcome to my top 5 worst reprints in revival selection. Ah yes, reprint sets, a time where even the most budget of players can get the opportunity to use cards that people with their mother's credit card have been using as to make them feel important. But just because a card is being reprinted doesn't mean it's good or healthy for the players or the game. And so I have compiled the worst cards in this set as to make my friends have a hard time selling off excess copies. Guess I'm not getting a discount on cards I actually want to buy as singles from them. With that out of the way, let's begin. Number 5 is Stillwater Festival Deity Chikishima. Everyone who's subscribed to my channel or are still subscribed would know that I hate this card simply because it has an unguardable combo with the V-Series Silent Tom. It may not be as prevalent in premium, but the fact that this combo still exists over 3 years gives me anxiety attacks when facing off against Oracle Think Tank players. But this is lower on my list due to V-Series Silent Tom not being reprinted, and therefore mitigates the amount of players using this combo. But the other reason is due to the existence of Blitz Order cards that can finally disrupt this combo. Now if only Bushiroad can produce a decent Blitz Order card for every nation that isn't locked behind an archetype, then maybe I can finally stop bitching about this card. At number 4 it's Goddess of Sound Sleep Tarot. One reason Bushiroad replaced stand triggers for front triggers was their design team wanted to make rear guard units that can perform drive checks. Only problem was they neglected to consider that premium format already had stand triggers, and among them was a stand trigger that recycled itself in tandem with the clan's mode of payment. Tarot on her own isn't inherently bad, but being in the same deck that a rear guard unit's drive check goes to your soul is an infinite loop waiting to happen. Worst of all, Bushiroad clearly knows this when they decided to reprint her despite not having any restrictions. It shows not their lack of data, but their lack of moral obligation to balance the game. Number 3 is the original King of Knights Alfred. Here we have undisputed proof that the VR rarity was Bushiroad's attempt to milk the player base for all they're worth, since they still refuse to reprint them to this day. Giving players the original Alfred over the V-Series version just feels a slap to the face for players that just wants to make Blaster Blade sit on their gift marker. Why not just reprint Heavenly Decree Altmile if this was the case? Both Chronojet Dragon G and Searing Heart Asher are already in this reprint set despite both cards having low chances of being used. They might as well just had all Team Try 3 second Strider unit forms in one set for collectors. Better yet just reprint Blaster Blade Exceed, since it would had better synergy with Gansalad Peace Saver. At number 2 it's Dragonic Overlord the Cross. Mostly for the same reason the original Alfred was reprinted, but much worse. At least Alfred has a G unit in this set that required him to be your heart card. On the other hand the Cross has no excuse. To top it all off, Bushiroad didn't bother reprinting even the original Dragonic Overlord the End, which this card needs to work. Unless you manage to snag the V-Series the End during its run, you're forced to buy on the secondary market just to be able to use this card, thus once again defeating the purpose of this reprint set. The only reason this card is even in this set was to give Dragonic Overlord the turnabout another groupie Overlord rear guard. Bushiroad been better off reprinting the Break Ride Dragonic Overlord instead. And number 1 is, you guessed it, gustil deminus. This card is a reason why we tell new players that premium format is like exposing yourself to the pandemic without any protection or vaccine. Just like Tarot, gustil deminus being reprinted is just Bushiroad ignoring to balance their game in order to herd players into playing their newer formats that will make them spend money instead of sticking to their old cards. But I'm going to give Bushiroad the benefit of the doubt by instead thinking that they waited a week to announce a new restriction list for premium format was to move revival selection stocks as quickly as possible before they started to restrict cards such as this, even if it meant only 5 days of sale. If they thought a Japanese Twitter post was the least of their problems, wait till Western Twitter gets offended at them for buying a product that got restricted afterwards. And that concludes my top 5 worst reprints in revival selection. Be sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments if this is a subtle way of making a restriction list prediction video.